The first question is, would you support legalization and decriminalization of marijuana use?
I've actually had some really excellent conversations about this over the last 3 weeks. The best part of being a candidate for state senate is having to have substantive discussions with people about their issues. And there are actually a large number of individuals in this Senate district who have this on the tip of their tongue, right? And so one of the things that I'll commit to is to seriously examine it, because the number of resources burned up in terms of law enforcement, time and enforcement for these minor offenses is the millions and millions of dollars. And I know that I'm all about trying to invest dollars in education and try to streamline our process. And so I would commit to looking critically at that. Susan sent me some really interesting information about what's going on in California right now, where they're taking a hard look at it. There are some serious arguments there to be evaluated critically. I would commit to that. Thank you.
I wasn't going to call you out, Susan, as the advocate, but now that Anthony and I did, I guess it's safe to say we had a good conversation about it also. I think there's a key question here around how we look at the allocation of resources in corrections. And there's no doubt that we can't continue building one prison a year and spending $40,000 to house inmates a year when we're spending $7,000 to educate students. There are two really concrete ways for us to look at changing that. One is the overuse of what's called the habitual offender statute, which is a statute that automatically triples possible jail time for someone on a third offense, even if those offenses might be minor. But that gets a lot of extended jail time, or might be minor charges, including drug charges. The second area you have to look at is there are things called, there's an absconding versus escaping statute, which says that if someone doesn't show up for a parole meeting or a probation hearing, they're treated the same as someone who's fled from a federal or state prison. And then also look at major jail time, which extends the amount of time we're spending, the amount of resources we're spending to support them. So I think there are really common sense ways to say that we can cut back on corrections that are going to save us dollars. I also think the conversation is worth having. The challenge, as Susan and I talked about, is even if we were to make that step, there are still state and federal laws that prohibit that, so the impact we would hope to have in terms of defraying crime, defraying narco trafficking, defraying gang activity, would be hard to still get that legally across the border and through New Mexico or Arizona to get to Colorado. So there are systemic challenges which make that maybe not an easy solution, but I agree that it's got to be one of the things we looked at for how we avoid spending way too much money on prison and not enough money on education.
My issues with the criminal justice system is that it's repetitive. As I said before, bottom line that I'm looking at are jobs. The reason why it's repetitive is because we have an issue of young men getting out of prison and they can't get jobs to support their family. So therefore, they continue to go through the same process. I have an idea, and my idea is that we start training the people that are in prison so that they're able to come out and have technology to do green jobs. They also shouldn't have their records of felonies following them the rest of their lives. That cripples their credit, and it cripples them getting ahead in society. So I feel that felonies should not follow them. After 3 years, if they hold and they stay steady and they're able to work and support their family, and they show neighborhood participation and accountability, that this would eliminate a lot of our criminal issues, repetitive. I started a busing system to the prisons, again, volunteering. I went to the off-season ski people and I asked them if I could use their van. They said, sure, Renee, you can use it. I contacted Burger King and I said, well, can I have the pickups at Burger King? And the Burger King people said, yeah, they can have a cup of coffee. Bring them on in. So I started doing advertisements because I felt compassion for the people that couldn't go visit their relatives in the prisons. So our prison institution needs to be revitalized. And the only way that it can happen is that green jobs and technology go into the prison system, and it helps them to come out with jobs that they can afford to provide for their family.
The question is the support for legalizing marijuana. And that certainly begs a bigger question. We know that drugs, not only in the state of Colorado, and drugs in the entire United States of America, are problems matters of, number one, those individuals that are subject to using the drugs, those individuals who perpetrate are young people with drugs and therefore they become addicted. We know that there's a lot of crime in the use of drugs. The Department of Corrections budget is much too high just because of sentencing disparity. In 2008, we instituted a Criminal Justice Commission to look at disparity in sentencing. Until we look at the appropriate mechanisms for intervention and for sentencing, we're going to have a lot of difficulty in drug use. Would I support looking at the legalizing of marijuana? Without a doubt, I would look at the big picture of legalizing drugs, because I think that our neighborhoods would be safer, our youth would be better protected, and we would have a safer society in general if we did look at legalizing drugs. And in that vein also, certainly the proper education, the proper management, and the proper monitoring of how that legalization should come about. We definitely have to do something about drug use in this country, and that may very well be a good first step in the state of Colorado.